It's not what's being played, it's what's not being played.
So if I stand this, stones throw away.
The courage to like explore space and silence. Space and silence in sound, in songs, is so powerful. I wanted to compose, I wanted to write. But then I realized I have to start moving away from that because there's a voice in me that I haven't yet revealed. And so began the journey of using my voice and how to use my voice.
Guns in his hand.
The time she was coming home to die, but actually it became a privilege that she did come home to die. Was there as my mum died, as literally her last breath, you know? And so, of course, that shapes you. You know, that shapes you in an enormous way.
My Northern Sky, full name Christopher Ryman. Ever since I heard Chris perform at the Nexus Festival, I've just been waiting and hoping for the opportunity to sit down and have a chat with him. Chris sings with such passion, such purity, and the way in which he conveys a message through his music is like no other. Chris talks to us about the importance of space and silence in music. What a beautiful thing that is, and having the confidence to just be you. Today you're going to hear 4 incredible performances from Chris, 3 of which are featured on his upcoming EP. Not only is Chris an incredible musician, songwriter, but he's an incredible person. Today he talks to us about his passions, his love of football and giving back to the youth by teaching, coaching and inspiring others to be the very best version of themselves. He talks deeply about moments in his life that have shaped who he is today. I honestly can't wait for you guys to hear this. So with no further ado, my name's Luke Garns and this is The Independent Musician. Tap, clap, sing along, but please keep it on beat. So hey guys, here today with My Northern Sky. Really looking forward to this one. First time I heard you perform was at Nexus Festival, and I was just blown away. So happy to have you here on the podcast, and welcome.
It's a pleasure.
Perfect. So I always start the podcast with the guest with the same kind of question, really, because I think your fans and people listening to the podcast will be really interested to know this, and that is, what does music and being a musician mean to you?
Okay.
Bit of a philosophical question for this time of the morning.
Straight into it already. Yeah. Wow. Okay. Wow. I think the way I would explain what music means, what music means to me is it has this extraordinary ability to just transcend words and what we often try and maybe find difficult to articulate verbally, you know. It just goes deep, and you don't even need to listen to the words. You don't even need to even like the song or like the piece. It can move you. It affects you, how you feel, how you respond, all these things. But when you come across something that just goes deep, and it's very hard to find the words or even express what it's doing to you and how it's making you feel. It's like, wow, what is that? That's just extraordinary. So I think the gift of music, you know, for everyone is just an extraordinary thing. So sometimes I'm like, I can't believe I can play music. So the musicians need the listeners. No listeners, where do the musicians go? It's a two-way thing for sure. But the privilege of being able to like sit at a piano more than anything, you know, more than singing, more than play guitar, anything like that, which is my first love, is the piano. So it's like just to be able to sit and like even just one key. I will just sometimes just play one key and just sit there listening to that key and just resonating. I'm like, what is that? You know, so I don't know if I've answered the question, but it's something again, just trying to I can't articulate it, but there's something going on in that, you know, and yeah. So it's a real privilege to be able to play as well as experience it as a listener.
I think that's a beautiful answer, to be fair, because I think that's so. I feel the same way. And music kind of it's like undescribable. You know, you don't know how how it makes you feel and the emotions that come from it. You don't know why you're feeling a certain way, but you're feeling a certain way. And when you mentioned about how you being your first love playing the piano, and like when you hit those keys, and I really feel that when I see you perform, and when I watched you perform, like it's like you can tell that you kind of really feel it. And for me, I love that about music. So yeah, that's just awesome. So yeah, I like to jump straight in with that question. Like I say, I know it's quite a deep question, but I feel it grabs people and it tells people a lot about you as an artist as well. And I think a lot of people turn up to these gigs and they watch us perform, they watch you perform, do your thing, but they don't really truly know what it means to you, you know, to be up there and to do it. And I think it runs quite deep a lot of the time. So.
No, it does. And I think with that, I think even like that question causes you to reflect on something that you do in a way that we can, oh God, I'm writing a song, or I'm recording this, or oh, I want to play a gig, I want to be playing that. You kind of do that, and that's all part of it. But actually, hang on a minute, what is it in the first place? You know, and I think it's so important in anything, you know, just to think about that. So that's a great question.
Absolutely.
I love that question.
Awesome.
Podcast over. We're done. That's it.
That's it. Cheers for tuning in, guys. So getting on to you and your journey. I mean, why did you start music? You know, how did you start music? What was your inspiration for getting going?
Wow. So it all began when I was about, I must have been 7 or 8. And one Christmas, my sister was given this like kind of toy keyboard, and like piano keyboard, and I just like, it's like I was like, what? My eyes open, and it's the kind of keyboard I don't even know if they're around anymore. You press the on button, and there's like this thing would whirl inside, as though it like was kind of these little people making it work or something. I don't know. So I just, obviously it was my sister's like present, and so I couldn't just jump on it straight away because it was Christmas Day and it's her present. But I was eyeing it. I was like, oh, I've got to have a go at that. And so politely, as a brother, I just waited, just like, I got to hold it here. I got to hold it. As the big brother, I can't just like boss myself around here, and my sister around. And I just sat down on Christmas Day. So I just sat with it, and it was like this. I don't know. It wasn't very big. It's like, I don't know, about a foot, you know, long. And I just started playing, and I started uncovering Christmas carols as I was playing. I just started to like work out Christmas carols. I was like, I really like this, and that really just began a real journey of like discovering. I've never, I don't know music theory. I know a little bit, you know, bits and pieces. I could sit down and see a piano, you know, a piano score, and it would take me ages and painfully. I mean, painfully. But I was never wanting to have lessons, or I wanted to compose. I wanted to write, and really it wasn't the vocals, like that kind of thing. I always used to sing in the car and stuff, but it wasn't until I was about 14, 15 when I started to like explore my voice. But that's going back, you know, to the first question. My first love is the piano, and that's where it started. And I just love composing. I just love writing. I just love creating sounds, you know, and that's where it all begins for me. So, and then the guitar, I didn't start, and my dad had an old guitar tucked away in a cupboard, like classic story, I guess, and it's just like this lovely nylon classical guitar. I was like, oh, what does this do? But that wasn't until I was 17 or 18, and I was working in a nursing home for a summer job, and there was this old guitar in this like kind of junk room. So I spent my lunchtimes playing this old junk guitar, my fingers, oh my goodness, they killed because the strings were so old and they like sliced them. But it then grew like this thing of like just a desire to play the guitar. So I don't know if that answers the question, but it's just that was the beginning point for me of discovering. And my mum would always have would often have classic FM on. We'd have Radio 2 on as well, that kind of thing, classic FM. And so I grew to really appreciate classical music, and I still like listening to a lot to it today. But I think those variety of sounds, the diversity of sounds, really lends itself into my love for creating sound. Like it doesn't matter what it is, it doesn't matter what the style, it doesn't matter the genre. If it moves me and it affects me, that's where I want to go.
Absolutely.
So something like that.
That's awesome. And you talking there about like the sounds and creating sounds. It's interesting because on the last podcast I did with another guest, they were talking about music for them was like a discovery of learning to listen more. So like when you listen to music, there's I go back to like when I was younger and my mum used to play like Michael Jackson, Stevie Wonder, and you'd hear like the panning in the ears, and I'd be like listening as a young child, thinking, "There's a sound there, and then there's a sound there," and then and it just kind of it introduces you to thinking about music differently. And I'm the same, to be fair. I've never really been a music theory buff, but I've always just kind of, if it feels right, then for me it's right,
Totally. That's absolutely, and I think what came first, the theory or the music? And I think there's something in that, like we learned how to write it down. We learned how to communicate it so others could play and be involved in that. But the music had to come first. The sounds had to come first so that we could just start responding to that.
Definitely.
Yeah.
And along with that, with like your musical journeys you talked there, what were like your influences from like other artists? I listen to your stuff, and correct me if I'm wrong, but I hear like a bit of Damien Rice coming through there, that sort of feel. Well, we're going to hear the way you play because we've got some tracks coming up throughout this podcast. But I mean, is there any particular musical influences?
There's no one in particular. There's never been anyone particular. I think it goes back to what I said about having on the radio classical music. I still can't really. I'm not pleased about this, but there's so many pieces of classical music I don't know what they're called. I like, but I just recognize them straight away. That kind of thing. And that said, there are definitely influences along the way. I think Damien Rice didn't come until later on in terms of influence. So for me, people like Counting Crows, that would be their early stuff. They're an American band. Like, so what he did lyrically, he's just a poet, and he brought I don't like all that stuff, but he brought his heart into the sound, into his song, into his songwriting, into his lyrics, into the whole as a band. I was like, he was so emotional with it, but not like overly emotional, like he's just crying. But it's just, I just heard he had given, not that I needed permission, but permission to start to explore revealing my heart with my voice and how to do that. And so he really, when you're growing up, you imitate. We grow up by imitating, don't we? Whether that's learning how to walk, whether that's seeing someone kick a football. We learn through imitation. And I think what can happen is a lot of us connect. Well, say there's those of us who can stay in that space of imitation in our life. This is as a job, as how we live life, in our desires, a house, a car. There's nothing wrong with those things. But what I realized when I was about 14 and 15, I was starting to model my voice on someone, because that allowed me and gave me that place to explore it. But then I realized I have to start moving away from that, because there's a voice in me that I haven't yet revealed. And so began the journey of using my voice and how to use my voice. And it's taken a long time, really. So with Damien Rice in the mix of that later on, a little bit later on, that what he taught me was, especially in a live sense, I went, the band I was in at the time, we supported him twice. And and just watching him perform, and the way he would, if it was a bit loud, and it's like, you know, small little venue, like if he got a bit too loud because people at the bar at the back were talking, he would just carry on playing the guitar, but pull away from the mic. And it was that like strange, you know, when something goes silent in a gig, you know,
Yeah.
it's kind of unusual. But you could hear that people were like, "What? Something's changed." They didn't know, they weren't listening because they were talking. But he got their attention that way, and it was the first time someone had shown me. And now this is how I play. It's like the music isn't in control of me. I'm in control of the music. I decide when I play, when I sing that note, when I sing that word, when I play that chord. I decide.
Yeah.
And so instead of being swept away by fast, and then I appreciate there's rhythm and all that kind of thing, but it's actually, no, actually, I'm in control of this. And so when I started to explore that, I was like, oh my goodness, that means every time I play, every time I sing, whether I'm in my shed or like playing in my little glorious shed, or on a stage, I can sing when I want to sing, and I can sing how I feel. I can sing that way. I might play the same song the next day, and it'll sound different. Why? Because I'm not feeling like the same I was yesterday. This means different to me. Or I'm playing a little bit more slowly, or a little bit quicker. So those combination of Adam Dritz of Counting Crows and then Damien Rice vocally, just the way they used their vocals enabled me, and then that had an impact on my love for sound. And when I play, so we're talking earlier about like just playing one note, but the note needs space. You know, at times it just needs a bit of space, a bit of to resonate or whatever, or just to give that kind of thing. And I just responding to that. So now it becomes a two-way thing. It becomes a thing that's kind of holistic. So I can't even remember what the question was now. Influences, but that was the journey. So you got all that in there, and then you got then someone like Sigur Rós, the Icelandic band, and he uses his vocal like an instrument. Mm-hmm. Of course, our vocal is, you know, voice is an instrument, but like in a way that they've made up this language called Hopelandish, and they just create these sounds, and it kind of uses his falsetto. But what it means is he floats, his voice floats over what's being played underneath. And I'm like, of course you can do that, you know. And Tom York he doesn't quite do it. He certainly doesn't do it to the extent of Sigur Rós. But Tom York again, at times you don't really understand what he's singing. He's making this sound. He's saying something, but he's making that sound. I'm like, of course you can do that. Of course, you don't have to be understood with every word you sing.
Nah.
You know, it obviously depends on the song or what you're trying to communicate, but. So I think that fusion of like those different people, you know, just bringing things from different people, whether it's Radiohead, there's definitely sounds within Coldplay I really like. There's the Doves from their older stuff, the Counting Crows. I love cinematic orchestra. You know, I can't get enough of jazz. I can't play jazz. I love jazz, and so. Just all these different influences. There's no Miles Davis. I sat with my son. This is such a special moment for me. On Sunday, my son's like he enjoys me. He likes jazz. You know, he's 10 years old, and he's like, I'm like, he likes jazz, and he's 10. And I'm sure that happens out there. But it's like, this is so cool. I said, Dad, let's put this on, okay? Anyway, I thought now is the time. So I've got Miles Davis. Kind of Blue, which is one of his most celebrated and maybe the most celebrated jazz album of all time. I got it on vinyl. I was like, now is the time. Let's get this out. And there was my son. Oh yeah, Dad. Oh, just in the space with Miles Davis. I'm like, I could only just but dream about this moment. You know, I'm not going to force this on my son. He wanted that, but he's hearing something and he's been influenced by something, you know. So there's another influence, you know, that kind of thing. So I could go on and on, but that probably gives a good overview of my influence in my sounds, as well as the story that it's had, the impact that's had on how I play as a musician today. You know.
Brilliant, awesome.
Yeah.
And so much of what you just said there, I picked up on. And when you said about, like, the music doesn't control me, I control the music, and you mentioned about space as well. And for me, as a musician, space has always just been such an important factor. And I think upcoming musicians who listen to this podcast, who are just getting into music, space is something which at a young age you think you've got to fill it all. Sometimes at a young age you're like, you feel like you've got to fill all the space. You can't let the music breathe. But once you get that understanding of, you're in control of the music, and space is just such a beautiful thing. Playing percussion in the Connell Brothers, just a little triangle hit, just a little cymbal swirl, and just let it breathe. And that stuff for me is just beautiful. So it's lovely to hear you talk about that.
That's so good. I don't know whether it was Beethoven who said this. I feel like it was credited to him, but I'm sure it's been said by other people. It's not what's being played, it's what's not being played. And it's like, that's it. And a good example is the orchestra. You've got all those instruments, you've got all those different sounds. You could play it all. And it's like knowing what not to play, what doesn't come in, what isn't involved in this moment, And I'm like, yes. And it's so important to learn and to grow and have the courage to, like, explore space and silence. Space and silence in sound, in songs, so powerful. It's like it can be so powerful.
Incredible.
Yeah.
Incredible. And we're just, before we move to hearing a first track from you, just leading on from what you said there, like you say, learning space and silence. At what point did you, as a musician, learn that? Because I was talking to somebody quite recently, and they were saying about how that's something which takes time to develop and to learn. And because like you say, when you're younger, you feel like you've got to fill it all, but you come to a realization of, no, I can just do this, and the audience are there, take it or leave it, they're going to get this. That's what I'm giving out. Do you understand what I mean, though? Rather than thinking I've got to give them everything.
I do. Yes, I do. It was actually I was reading an article, I can't remember when it was, by Adam Duritz, the lead singer of Counting Crows. And he was talking about what would happen is that they would play their live sets. When they play live, they really mix it up from their recorded stuff, So they explore other sounds within that song, and I love that. Just because you got the song out on the album, there are so many different ways you could have gone off that. There's so many variations, and so for me, live gives an opportunity to do that. So anyway, he was talking about this kind of thing, and was talking about, like, what will happen is you bring down a song, and the crowd are going, yeah, and he's like, no, that's the time for them to be quiet, because they need to listen, because now the music has really gone down in volume. So you're in this big venue or whatever, and so he's like, so I just thought I'd give it a try and see what happened. So he went up to the mic. So they were playing this song, and the music, they big sound, and then just dropped, and just the piano was being played. So you can imagine just a beautiful moment in that. And the crowd are going, and some of the crowd going, yeah, and he's like, no. Shh. So he goes to the mic, he just steps up to the mic, and goes, shh. So he wasn't being like, be quiet, shut up. It was just like, shh. And he was just gently, as you would, I guess maybe as a parent would for their child, just like, shh, just bringing them down. And he said, I didn't know what would happen. I didn't know whether they would ignore me. He'd never done it before. I didn't know whether they'd ignore me, whether they thought I'd being arrogant. But he said, but it worked. it really worked. And so I was doing that, and then the crowd just went quiet. And I was like, yes. So you've got that, right? So that's the first part of the equation. And then referring back to what I saw Damien Rice do, and pull away from the mic because it was getting loud, but carry on playing the music. He was in control of the song. And so what he's using there, both of them are playing with silence and space and trying to control, not in a overruling way, but in a way of caring for what they're bringing and what they're presenting and what they're sharing. So I think it was that fusion. And so when I then came to play live, I'm not saying it came naturally to me. Well, maybe it did, because I'd already had an appreciation for space. But it was like that combination of reading that article, that interview, and then seeing Damien Rice do what he was doing. I was like, I'm going to start exploring this and just play, and just because a lot of it is storytelling. Like it's storytelling for me. I think you don't have to have vocals on it. You don't have to have lyrics for it to be a story. We can all cite, or so many of us can cite, favorite pieces of a film soundtrack. There's no vocals at all. It's telling a story, or it's mirroring or playing along with, it's journeying with a story. And so that's what I realized, is that like whether I'm playing just an instrumental piece or whether I'm playing a song, I'm telling a story. And our favorite storytellers when we're younger, or even now when we hear it maybe on the radio or on a podcast, are the ones who know how to use silence, who know how to change the tone of a phrase, or maybe put an accent on for someone. Or like we love listening to Paddington in the car, like the kids and stuff, as a family, and like love it. And there's two storytellers who there's a CD collection, and there's one person who narrates part of that collection, and there's someone for the other. I prefer the first one, and it's Stephen Fry. I'm like, I love the way he storytells. What is that? So for me, music is the same, and so it's that. It's that. I think that combination of having the courage to explore space and silence. I'm telling a story, but I ultimately, all of that said, it's being who you are, being genuine, and it's kind of actually bringing your heart to it. And so I am just going to bring my heart right now, and here it goes. So yeah, it's somewhere in there, the answer, I think.
Yeah, perfect. And I think that's a beautiful thing, just being yourself and being who you are, and just bringing. We all have those moments of self-doubt, when we're coming towards a live performance, and it's like, oh, well, why do people want to sit there and just listen to me play? But and we all had that moment,
Yeah.
But it's kind of like, once you break through those barriers, and you just realize that, I'm just going to give them my heart, And when you are performing, you are really giving them something of yourself.
Yes.
And I think that's just a beautiful thing. Yeah. Okay, awesome. I think this is a great time for us to hear one of your tracks. So I'll let you introduce it. Let us know what this first song is, please.
Yeah, so A Stone's Throw Away. So I finished writing this during lockdown, I think. I'd already started it. So a friend of mine, his son had got into drugs, and they were really, as a family, really concerned about him, and they didn't know how to help him, and they were so faithful as parents. But I experienced, just in the conversations I'd have with my friends, like what they were going through and how they so wanted to help, and yet they were being pushed away, but they were always there. It was this, I can't even imagine what they were going through. And so it's that idea of like, just even being a stone's throw away from you, please just let me be even that close, even that far away to you, And then as lockdown started to come in as like, crumbs, this makes, this has a double meaning here, because we're all like in our little bubbles, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I just want to be in the same, I don't even want to see you, to wave to you across this, whatever it is. So it kind of brought two stories and experiences together, really.
Perfect. That's awesome. So so here we are, guys. This is A Stone's Throw Away from the incredible My Northern Sky. Here we
go. So dry my eyes, I close them tight, and I'm cold inside, so cold inside. Yeah, I haven't held you lately. Yeah, and these midnight hours, they're the longest hours. Yeah, God only knows. Yeah, God only knows what's been going on just lately. And as I twist and turn, as we crash and burn, it's been miles and miles and miles without you here just lately. And those fairground rides, those playgrounds and kites, you know when you held my hand, you held it so, so tight. Damn, I miss you so much lately. So if I stand this, a stone's throw away, well, would you let me? So I dry my eyes and I shut them tight, but I'm still so cold inside. You must be cold inside. I haven't held you lately. And as I twist and turn, as we crash and burn, it's been miles and miles and miles, yeah, without you here lately. If I stand here just a stone's throw away, well, will you let me? Yeah, I need to stand here less than a stone's throw away. Come on, just let me. Da 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 da. Do you remember? Yeah, da 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 da. Do you remember? If I was to stand less than a stone's throw away, well, would you let me? Look, I need to stand less than a stone's throw away. Come on, just let me. Come on, just let me. I need you to let me. Come on, just let me.
Wow. Awesome.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. And I wrote a few things down throughout that performance, and one of the things I wrote down was, well, beautiful piano, but now I just wrote down about the dynamics and the phrasing throughout that performance, and how, like you say, it kind of takes the listener on a journey, and there's moments where you're listening and you say something in a certain way, and it's like and it just takes on new meaning because of the way you phrased it. And I think that goes back to what you said about the sounds. I don't know if that makes sense. And you had the moment at the end as well, before you said, do you remember? You had like the ad-libs before. Yeah. And it's like, I don't think they were actually, if I'm wrong, if they were actually words, but it just created an emotion. And then almost when you said then, do you remember, that took on new meaning as a result of what you did before.
Yeah, that's lovely. Thank you. Actually, that, the ad-libs there, the idea behind the ad-libs, you're the first person to, pick that out, as in share it with me. The ad-libs, the idea behind it is, it's like, as a father or as a mother, like, you're carrying your child, and you would just sing a simple melody to them to help them and console them, or to comfort them. Sorry, and that's the idea, that in the midst of all of this turmoil that's going on in this song and in this story, this real story, real life story, just being able to go da 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 da, because that's why you just come here. Do you remember this little melody I used to, like a nursery rhyme I used to just sing with you when you were young, when you were little. So that's the idea behind that. But that's really encouraging for me that you share that with me, and also the phrasing, because when I say I work what I've been, that really follows on from what we were talking about before we listened to the song. Is that very idea of each word or each phrase means something. So we say it as we mean it, and that might change tomorrow. That's okay. And I think that you've picked both those areas out. Really is a real compliment for me, that you should say that. So yeah, thanks Luke.
You deserve people to recognize that from your music, because it's just a beautiful thing. So yeah, just moving on to talking a bit more about you. We spoke about music and inspiration and journey and stuff like that. I mean, what else do you do in your spare time? Any hobbies? I always find that when people, I don't know if you found this before, people spoke to you after a gig, but they see you perform, they hear you perform, and they want to know more about you. I don't know if you've ever come across that before, but I feel that way about artists when I see them. I'm like, wow, that was an incredible performance. What about the person?
Yeah. Where's that all come from? Yeah, that's good. That's a really good point. So I one of my biggest struggles in life has been my passions and my giftings. So football played a very big part of my life growing up. It's something I took seriously, and it's something that I had an opportunity to pursue in a very serious way. And I ended up walking away from the game, so I just got very disillusioned. But after grieving that time and that period over like however many years, my passion and my love for the game reignited. But for me, my passion for it really stems around just a ball and what a ball can do in bringing people together, in bringing of all sorts of backgrounds, different societies, cultures, right across the world. Like it can do. You can play a Christmas Day match in the middle of a war. World War One. Like what? Can you do that with anything else? I mean, music can't transcend that. Like this ball, we may not like it, we may hate the game, but we all know how to play it. All we need, it doesn't even need to be round. It can be like crunched up piece of paper or cardboard. It doesn't matter. A tin, a can, a drink can. So like all these things, but it's so universal, and I love what it can do. And so after grieving my time with football, I then started to realize there was something I wanted to bring to kids. With that, and kids who are gifted, very gifted with a ball, and those who just want to be able to kick a ball but get bullied on the playground. Guy, you're rubbish. I'm like, I hate that. So for me, that's been my journey with that. So yeah, football is very futsal, and the ball is very close to my heart. So I play that. I play futsal now. I'm also an artist. So that kind of came late for me, but I also have art, and I make art and sell art and that kind of thing. So that would be those would be the big three, I guess: the music, the art, and then the football. So and I coach kids for part of the week in that.
Awesome. Yeah, many similarities between you and I there, you know, with
Mm-hmm.
the
Mm-hmm.
with the football coaching side as well. And I find the beautiful
Mm-hmm.
thing about football is it brings people together. Like you say, it doesn't matter
It
how,
does.
you
It's
know.
enormous.
And the worst thing, like you say, is when people say like, "Oh, you're rubbish" and stuff like this, or "you can't,"
Mm.
because there's no such thing as can't. You know, there's
I
levels
know,
to what you can
totally.
do. You know, you can do
Yeah.
things up here, or you can do things here
Mm-hmm.
or here, but it doesn't mean you can't do it. And that's the beautiful thing about football. And I feel like you learn so much more from the game. I don't know if you could just touch upon that slightly from your experiences as well.
No.
What you think kids and
Mm.
people in general get from the game, and how that can then transcend into other parts of their life as well, like learning
Totally.
values,
Ah,
hard
totally.
work, determination.
Totally.
Yeah,
There's so much in there. There's so much. I think the biggest thing for me was like I had a few girls who've come to my local community sessions and they were told, by kids in school, oh, you're rubbish, you can't play with us. I'm like, huh? Okay, come here and you can play here. This is your safe place. Now they're starting to do things with the ball. But what it's doing is that it's giving them permission to enjoy something that they always had permission to have. But that when we receive a negative comment about us, or about our character, or about what we can do or not do, we feel we don't have permission. Often we can feel we don't have permission to enjoy that anymore. But for me, that doesn't matter whether it's football. It doesn't matter what it is. We all have permission to be able to engage with something. We don't have. Doesn't mean we're going to be like the best in the world at it. But that's yeah. So I could talk all day about this because it means so much to me. I just remember in the playground, like would have been a good player on the playground, and the kids being like, who couldn't play, just being, oh, you're rubbish. I'm like, right, you're on my team. I want you to, you belong. You come on, you're going to be okay here. We're
yeah.
going to play together. So it's like, it's that. Anyway, I could talk all day about that, so I won't.
No, no, no.
Well,
But
it's a
that's
music
amazing. I think that,
podcast.
like I said before, when people watch you perform and they think, "Oh, what of the person?" I think it's lovely to hear that as well. You know, that side of you,
Okay.
and I think that kindness and
Mm,
compassion,
thank you.
personally, after hearing your music, I feel that comes through in
Mm,
your music. And a question I want to ask you
okay.
now is a bit more of a
Thank
deep
you.
rooted question, going back to my first one again.
Mm,
But I always feel like
mm-hmm,
things happen within our lives, you know, whether that's a happy moment, a trauma, sadness of some sort, which kind of shapes you.
mm,
And you know, I've had
mm,
my woes with like health issues and stuff over the past, and I feel like
okay.
however much you'd like to take that back, it shapes who you are today. And for me, it makes me feel differently about the things I do, the passions I have, music, football, stuff like that. Is there a moment in your life
Mm.
where something happened, or you know, that shaped you and made you now into the person you are today, and maybe think differently or give you a different sense of perspective?
Yeah, do you know, I think there's a number of them um, that I've experienced. But if I was to highlight okay, there's probably two big ones. The first one would be um, school and my experience in football. So I experienced, I had friends, I had good friends. I've always had, been able to make friends easily. That's not a thing. But I was shy and quiet. But so I would be in circles, like, say, again, going back to the football. It actually happened in football. It didn't happen in anything else. No, not happen in anything else. I would be in teams, or picked for teams or special teams or whatever you want to call it. Like, and then within that, because I was quiet and shy, I would be maybe vulnerable in that and be bullied. I'm being bullied in the game that I love, right? And that happened under 10s all the way through and 30s. Not every team, not at all,
Mm-hmm.
but it happened. And interestingly, it happened maybe in the higher level I went. So what that's done is given me an empathy, regardless of football, and what people have experienced in being bullied. And I know that can happen in any place. It can happen in the workplace. It can happen in the home. It can happen in all sorts of places. So I think that for me, that empathy I have now with kids, especially, that is something I hate. But it's helped that I guess that compassion and that heart to kind of like, I don't know, just to be there for someone or be there for people in some way, or just the power of an encouraging word, or the power of an encouraging moment, or in whatever walk of life. So I think that's really shaped me, and I'm sure that that has to come out through the music in some way, because it's been has an impact on me. But I think maybe that's where I actually found, interesting now thinking about it, maybe where I found some comfort in creating and composing music when I was younger. I would spend hours at the piano, just hours, composing, and especially composing and then writing the songs, but like just especially the instrumental stuff. And that maybe in that I was actually pouring out, I was journaling, but through the music, So that would be the number one, is the experience of being bullied when I was younger. And then the second one has shaped me just because, it was a major loss. So my mum died when I was in my mid-20s, where I within a month of being diagnosed, she died, and so of cancer. So it was a Christmas night, like Boxing Day morning, and when she died. Amazingly, she died at home, because she had been in hospital. The cancer just went. The acceleration was extraordinary within a month, and she wasn't able to speak anymore and everything. And the hospital said, "Look, take her home." And really, I didn't really clock it, maybe in my naivety, maybe in my denial, that at the time she was coming home to die. But actually it became a privilege that she did come home to die. Because I know that many people can die in hospital, but in other places, and I'm sure there's people listening to this that have experienced death close to them, so in various ways. So it actually became a privilege, and I was there as my mum died, as literally her last breath, and so of course that shapes you, that shapes you in an enormous way. And I think the biggest thing for me was like, I think I was in shock, and even now I get triggers, but it's lovely to be able to share the memory of her through my children, with my children, just being able to refer to things and reflect on things. And not that like I'm always talking about her, but I just realized how special she was and how special she was to me, so yeah, that is it. But what I think the biggest thing I realized on the back of that was, I was like, what? A year later, my family and I, we didn't have Christmas at home. It was just like, it would be strange. It was just like a year on. And so we went away to Salzburg, and for the Christmas, and it was beautiful. It was so beautiful. Like I don't know if you've been to Salzburg before, but like the snow had fallen, and it was just like old town for Salzburg. It's just beautiful. And I went for a walk that night, one night, just by myself, walking through the snow. I was like, what? Here I was, a year on from what happened. My mum was no longer with us, and like, what is this about? What is life about? I couldn't. I just didn't. I just was like, what? And then I remember coming to outside a church, and there was a statue of Jesus on a cross. And I was like, why did you die? I was trying to like understand what death was. I was trying to understand that. And I just said, why did you do that? Like, I've heard about you dying for, you die for the world. Like, what does it even mean? And as I stood there, I had this moment. I was like, something dawned on me. And I realized that love outlasts death, that love outlives death. So death, where we consider it the final thing, of course, in the physical, there is that being passing for sure. But I realized, and I was able to, I hadn't stopped loving my mum. And I couldn't communicate with her. I was like, but I haven't stopped loving my mum. Oh my goodness. And it just dawned on me, love is stronger than death. and I just and I think, although it still was hard after that, but it just was a real defining moment for me, and in my faith, then just in how my walk from that point in terms of faith, but it also in terms of realizing that my mum lived in me still, her influence on me, all that she'd given to me, her love for me carried on. My love for her carried on. That's why I was grieving. That's why I was missing her, but her love for me was carrying on in a way that I was able to live my life the way I was because of the influence and the love she had given me. Wow, love is stronger than death. Love outlives death. Love outlasts death. And that was a real defining moment for me in my walk. And it doesn't mean it's been easy since. And just, life we all know, has its challenges, tribulations. There's awful things that go on at times. So like that, and that love is love. What? Oh yeah. So those two, I think those two situations, stories, life experiences, have had an enormous impact on me, and which understandably, really, because it's one is very much about attacking your character and being bullied. Like, you're telling me I'm someone I'm not, and believing that, and having to struggle with it, and coming into a place of moving away from that and throwing those words away and not receiving that and not accepting that anymore, to then the flip side of having someone just feel like stolen out of your life, like just gone within weeks, that you'd only ever known life with. Think about that, but then the revelation of realizing, love is stronger than death. So that would be my answer. That, I think that's would be the two things I'd pick out there.
Incredible. Thank you so much for sharing that with us. And like I say, I think we all have moments in our life that kind of shape us and mold us and make us think differently. And I think we don't always take the time to think about those. And I think when we do open ourselves up and think about those, it gives our whole life more meaning. Oh, that's why I do this.
Yes.
That's why I feel that way. That's why I give to these people. And it all comes back from those deep-rooted moments in our life, and I think it's an amazing thing to talk about those. And that's just a beautiful thought. Love outlasts death. I think that's amazing. I've made a note of that, and I think that's just beautiful. And I'm really going to take that away from this podcast. So thank you so much for that. We're going to hear another track from you now. So if you kindly introduce that would be amazing.
Yeah, sure. So this is called Mayflies and Sunflowers, and this is by far the quickest song I have ever written. And as my wife knows, can take a long time. I craft, and I can struggle at times with perfectionism, so I have to really deal with that in my life. But like crafting a song, that kind of thing, it just as a craftsman with a piece of wood. But this came as a shock. This went boom, 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 and it's like literally in one night. And I'd had the piano piece, a little bit of it before, but as I was writing it, what was happening at the time, and I wasn't consciously thinking about this, it was only really on more of a reflection of it after I'd penned it, was that this happened at a time when Syria, the issues in Syria were very much mainstream news, so it'd be a few years ago now. And I kind of just basically put myself in a situation of, I have no idea what it's like to be in a war-torn country. Like, absolutely no idea. I can only imagine from what I've seen, what I've read, what I've heard, So in this situation, I just imagine the story of like a father and a daughter. So, and I have a daughter, so that becomes even more for me. But like, of just the story of a father and daughter at a time of real unsettling, of war, of all that kind of thing. And now I've said that, you'll hear that, I think, in the lyrics especially. So yeah, so I love singing this song. I really do love singing this song. It's called Mayflies and Sunflowers.
Perfect.
Bum, 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 this town is burning. Somebody please call help. Hold tight, gunfight. They say the sun don't shine here, but I don't think that's true. Baby, I'll talk, you smile, but don't look, no baby, just hold my hand. Fall, 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 the snow has come again, dear, just look as if nothing's here. Guns in his hand, the prayers in my hand. Look, can we just stop to talk? If you go my way, I'll go your way, then maybe we'll understand. Bang, bang, red stain, the white snow, the blood stain. Look, this time this is real. I'll take you home, dear. I can hear the bells clear. Look, there's no time to lose. Stained glass window, sunlight breaks through, paints your face so true. Those mayflies and sunflowers seem so distant. I promise you that they are true. Those mayflies and sunflowers for you. Stained glass window, sunshine breaks through, paints your face so true. Those mayflies and sunflowers may seem so distant. I promise you that they are true. Those mayflies and sunflowers for you. I promise you that they're for you.
Beautiful. Absolutely beautiful. Uh,
Thank you.
that's so good. I was getting lost in the music, but I was just picking up on certain little bits there. The piano and the way you played it, and the way the melody itself creates movement within the song. I want to get on to talking a bit more about your songwriting, but I don't know if that makes sense what I'm trying to say there, and almost like the tension and release of how you play. You know, it's got the melody kind of speeds up in places and then strips right back down. It's got the dynamics, the light and shade, and I feel like all of that takes the listener on a bit of a journey. It was that intentional, and any thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I don't. It's a great question actually. I don't think I've ever written a song where I sing with every note on the piano. The melodic notes of the piano. You know, I'm actually singing along, like then I like, but because of the style of the piano, it works. And I was just like, Tori Amos actually, she's a big influence. She's massive influence. I didn't even mention her earlier on, piano wise, because her philosophy was she wanted to play the piano like an electric guitar. So that's how she approached it. Now, it doesn't mean it sounds like an electric guitar, but it's the idea. I was like, she explored creating something different. And Thomas Newman, again, he's the composer. He's done Shawshank Redemption and Green Mile. They create space. Sorry, but going back, so this piano for Mayflies and Sunflowers, I love playing it. My fingers, honestly, they like jump with joy when they get to play Mayflies and Sunflowers. And so being able to, but the melody was already there through the piano. I'm like, well, I just sing with it. And as I started to write the lyrics down, put the lyrics, that started to come to me. I was like, yeah, I just play with the note. Of course I sing with the notes. Of course I do it this way. And then going back again, referring to what we've talked about earlier, is that being in control of the music, being in control of the expression. This is a really heartfelt song. There are times I play this live and I have to be careful of not crying. And it's not my story. But yes, it is. I can relate to it, having a daughter. The thought of Crum's holding my daughter and she's been shot or something's happened to her. I'm seeing her die in front of me.
Wow.
What? So that's where it comes from. I remember playing it one time, and I didn't tell the story as much as I did with you, on this podcast. But so I told the story. I played the song, and in the middle of a song, it's this very small venue. Someone just walks out, and that happens. As in just maybe she wants to loo, whatever. He came up to me afterwards. He said, "I couldn't listen to the rest of that song because it brought too much of a thing from me and my daughter." I'm like whoa, shucks. I didn't want him to put him off and leave, but it just showed how deep it went, and you never know. That's the beauty of music. You never know how deep something can go to someone else. So going back to the play piano, speeding up, that kind of thing. I love playing that song. I enjoy it so much because I feel like I can express it and express myself so freely, whether it's just purely the piano playing, whether it's vocally or both. And there's so much being said. There's so many scenes happening within the song, and I transport to that place, and I'm like, oh, yeah.
Amazing, yeah. And also, just finally, the line "true," you say it quite a few times throughout the performance, and the one thing that I picked up on is the word "true" takes on different meaning for different people. Was that intentional? I'm not sure if it was. It's weird because it's just such a simple word, but you can relate it to what you're talking about in the song, or you can relate it to something else in your life. Does that make sense? I don't know if it does.
Yeah, it does. No, absolutely.
When you said it and the way you phrased it, and it was like true, and it's like truth is a beautiful thing for a start, and it kind of made me think about other things other than the song. I don't know if that's
okay. That's amazing. I think the word true, like true or false, like, you know, truth is such it has such a profound meaning, doesn't it? Really, when you think about it, is that true? Is what we're reading in the papers true? Is what we're hearing true? Is what you're saying true? Be honest. It's the same thing. True. Are you being true to me? And I think that's when I was writing this song, it was like, you know, there's I sing. They say the sun don't shine here. I don't think that's true. And it's like I think that's the first time I do that in the song, where I just strip out. It's just become true. There's no piano. I just go true, and it becomes a way of emphasizing. You know, in that moment, it's like, no, the sun does shine here, even though we're around this turmoil, this tribulation right now. The sun does shine here. That is true. Truth number one. Then when you come like later in the song, and I don't know if I should even share too much detail about the song, because I like people to listen. You know, they have their own take on it. Yeah, but at the same time, here I am. The father's with the daughter, and the daughter's like, you know, is she dying? Like, so as you go, just take this with you. What that memory was for you, that we treasure, you and I treasure together, that was true. For all that's going on right now, for all that you're feeling, even if it feels so distant, that was true. And so truth can feel like a distant thing at times because of what we're going through. But like, no, but it's still true. And just that kind of bringing hope to that. But it's amazing you picked that out. I love that. That's awesome. So yes, I think subconsciously, consciously, and unconsciously, that's what, as I was writing, that's what's going on in that.
Beautiful. And I know there's so many aspiring songwriters, artists that may listen to this podcast, and they want to draw on the experience and the thought process of people like yourself who write these amazing songs. And I just wondered if you could talk to us before we hear another track, and then start to wrap up the podcast. Talk to us a bit about your songwriting process. You spoke earlier about how it's very methodical and you dwell on it for long periods of time. How do you go about writing your songs, and what advice would you give to people that want to write the songs and give a bit of themselves?
So I'll start with how I write music. So the music comes first. That's what I'm most inspired by. I think that when I start, just whether it's on the guitar or whether it's on the piano or wherever it might be, it just starts to create the mood. And so from that moment, then it starts to begin to unfold. And so it takes me ages. It can take me ages with the lyrics, because I feel like I know how to write lyrics now. When I say I know how to for me. I'm not saying I know how to do it. It's more I know how to do it for me, what I'm happy with, how I like to write lyrically. But that, honestly, at times I'm like, oh dear, it can take so long. So, but it also feels like it's a maturing process of a song, or a piece of music. So, like, I'll have the title, yeah, and over time, like, yeah, I'm gonna start to change that and unfold that, and I actually really like that. But at times I need to be more intentional in bringing that maturity into fruition, not just waiting for it to happen. Mm-hmm. So it's a kind of around that really. I love when I've got on my Spotify playlist, I've got one of my playlists is called songs that inspire me to write, and they're just a basically growing number of songs when I just want to go and write right now. And so I've just kind of put that aside in this little pocket, as it were. And I was listening to it the other day in the car with my two boys, and I said, guys, just listen to this. I was having a dad music moment. Like, guys, just listen. I tell you what, like right now, I don't want to be going to football training. I want to be going home to write a song. So I think just going back to songs that really inspire you to write, that can really help. So moving into what you asked, what advice would you give to others? I think the biggest thing is that be yourself, be genuine, and that in itself is a journey. And I thought I knew what that looked like when I was 15 or 16. And maybe I did in one sense because that was part of the journey. But it's actually, no, be true to who you are. And what that means is, what we so often do is we can get caught up with what we think is cool in terms of what we write. As in, well, is that cool? Is that what's going on right now out there? What's on the mainstream radio or mainstream, kind of platforms? Like, what's this? And would it sit on that? Would it be able to have a place in that? Would it be, that's where now there's nothing wrong with it being on mainstream. I'm not saying that, but if that is no longer a blank canvas, because you've got to now be cool, because it's got to sound cool, hasn't it? It's just got to sound cool. So, yeah, but are you creating what is you? Or are you creating something to sound cool because that's what you can do? Now, if you want to do it that way, that's different. But for me, people I'm moved by, the people when I listen, are the ones that are just bringing themselves. And so I remember when I was writing, I wrote my album, and my album's very different to the stuff we've been listening to today, really. And what it was, it's like a film soundtrack of pieces, but with songs dotted in. So it's like it tells a story, basically. My goodness, I struggled with this album. It took me 2 years, and the reason I did, it wasn't because of the music, it was because of me, because I had to go through that thing of no longer weighing up, well, will they like this on the radio? Will this be able to go on the radio? What am I talking about? What am I talking about? So already I put parameters and boundaries on my blank canvas. It's like, you can only use these 2 colors. I'm like, oh, what? Oh, okay then. No. So the journey, it's a real journey of, I think, for myself, but it certainly has been, is like discovering and finding out who you are and not being swayed by what you think it should sound like. Remove should. It should sound like this. It should be that. Just like, no, just be you in it, And I think, and whatever inspires you, and that might be going for a walk along in streets. I love walking through busy city streets as much as I love walking through the woods. Like, what inspires you? What, that kind of thing. So, yeah, there's so much in that. And but I think if we start to learn, and maybe the biggest thing is, become aware of yourself in this, because when you become more aware of yourself and who you are in this, you will start to understand how you write, and you will understand what kind of sounds you want to create, regardless of whether you're looking for. You don't then looking for approval and affirmation. Again, puts boundaries on the canvas. Like, it's just like, but it's got to sound. Yeah, but how do you know? How do we know about? How does anyone know what the other person is going to think or of their music? We just create this imaginary audience, as we're writing or before we start writing. So,
Amazing.
yeah.
And you're talking there about boundaries and like validation.
Yeah, validation. People. That's a good word. Yeah.
And I think that's just a massive thing. Well, in today's world and society of like social media and stuff like that, everyone's seeking validation. Oh, yeah. I should look that way. I should sound that way. Totally. I should do it that way.
Totally.
And like you say, that journey of like self-discovery, finding, no, this is me. And, and that's all you can. And I think that's just a great message to send out there, and for people to, even if they're not a musician, just in other elements of their life as well, to really take that on board.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Sorry, I was going to say for you, like, what's been your journey with that? Like that kind of, because it's a journey. It's not a destination. It's not. It doesn't just. You don't just arrive there. It's like it's a life. It's because we carry baggage. We carry stuff with us.
It's a constant thing, isn't it? Really. And over the years, like, I've got to a point now where it's funny, very much so how you talk and how you spoke about your music, how I'm comfortable with what I do now. So when I'm
Mm,
whether I'm playing club percussion, how I
mm,
play it,
mm-hmm,
when I play, what I
mm,
play, you know,
mm-hmm,
I'm
mm-hmm,
comfortable with this is my style. Or if I'm playing in a band, I've had moments in the past where I thought, oh, I need to do this because they're doing that. There was
mm,
this other club percussionist actually. It's a funny story, and in Bournemouth, I had a residency down in Bournemouth for years,
mm,
and my residency stopped. And I'm like, oh, we're going to try out this other percussionist. And they're like, oh,
mm,
he's got a bigger drum kit, he's got a bigger setup. His have all got lights on, you know, all this
mm,
sort of thing.
mm-hmm.
And they're like, we're going to try him out. And then, funny, a month later, they come back and ask me to play. They asked me to come back, and they said, "Oh, can you get lights on your drums though?" And I was like, "No, I don't. I don't have lights. I don't have lights on my drums." They're like, "Can you get a bigger drum set?" And I was like, "No, I just have my bongos, my chimes, my cymbal.
Yeah,
That's my setup, really." Um,
yeah,
and
yeah.
then suddenly they just embraced that, and I was back there every week, and the feedback from people
Brilliant.
was like, "Oh, we're so glad that you're back," and it kind of made me feel like, "Oh, no, what I'm doing is okay." You know what I mean? And just those little,
Yes,
I'm not sure if I've
yes.
even answered it. I'll come around to it myself, but I think just
No,
those
that's
little
brilliant. I
moments,
love that story.
those moments in your life where you feel like, "No, I'm doing all right," you
Mm.
know, and it kind of,
That's amazing. Oh, I think that it like that's I love that. That's a great story. That's a great example. That because you're able to like the fact that that story that you have is a real one, and that you just no, I'm just going to be true to myself. This is my setup, and I don't have I don't have lights, and it's like yeah, this is how I do it, and it's not an arrogance. It's not about being well. This is how I do it, and so it's nothing to do with that. It's actually well, no, this is how I do it. This is how I play. This is who I am, and if you want me to be something else and someone else, then I'm not able to do that because that's not me.
no.
You know, and I think I love that. That's a brilliant story. I love that. I
Thank
love
you.
that.
Yeah, and it's that whole less is more thing as well, isn't it? And I've always been a great
It
advocate of
is.
that. But yeah,
Yeah,
uh, um, this is
amazing.
amazing. I hope you guys who are listening to this podcast are enjoying this half as much as myself. Quick one. If you enjoy the way this podcast looks and sounds, maybe you too do podcasts or any kind of video content where you're in one place and your guest is in the other. You want to check out riverside.fm. The beautiful thing about this platform is it's not dependent on internet connection or streaming. It takes video and audio straight from your device, uploads it to the cloud, takes it from your guest device, uploads it to the cloud. They come together and down in perfect sync. So you get great video and great audio quality every time. If you want to support what we do here at The Independent Musician, then please click on the affiliate link down in the description. Sign up today and get your first hour free. Thank you. Sorry, excuse the plug there, my friend. We have to do
No,
it.
that's good. That's a good plug. Yeah. You
So
should.
yeah,
That's when
we're
you
gonna
should get your drums out and do a little
yeah,
kind of
but
like.
I should have got a.
Oh yeah. Oh, you missed it. You
I
missed the
missed it. I missed.
opportunity.
I have to put it in the post edit. I'll get in the post
Yeah,
edit. Don't worry.
yeah.
Um, so after all the talk we've had about songwriting, about finding yourself, I
hmm
think it's a great time for us to hear another track from you, and then we're gonna finish up after that with a few podcast
hmm
traditions, and then it's been amazing. But this next track,
Thank you so much. Yeah, so this actually is my favorite song at the moment that I've written, and I think it's because lyrically it sums up the challenges that um, my wife and I, my family and I've had. And I say that sounds big. I don't mean it big. Life, you know, and you have your hopes, you have your dreams, you have your things you're working towards, you desire, you long for, individually, as a couple, as a family, all these things. And it's called Our Finest Hour, and that our whole idea of, you know, we can sometimes hear that phrase, oh, this is their finest hour, you know, that was their finest hour. And then, like, that whole idea of, when is our finest hour? And just, I know we haven't come to our finest hour, and maybe there isn't ever a finest hour, but at the same time, there has to be a finest hour, because it has to be finer than the things we've been experiencing and going through. So it's like, so it's just this, yeah. So it's that, and I feel like I've summed it up lyrically. I'm so happy with it, but also I love the piano. Like, you know, I said earlier about my love for jazz. I love listening to jazz. You know, I love Jamie Cullum's show on Radio 2 on a Tuesday night, and you know, just I'm very thankful for that show, because it kind of, I'm not a jazz muso or anything. I don't know much in the grand scheme of things, really. But there's just lovely things that come back in the sounds that I'm listening to, and that inspires me to go away and listen to jazz artists. But this is got definitely, you'll hear it in the piano, like the flecks of like jazz in there. Like, oh. And it's not going to mean I'm going to go and change direction, go like jazz route, but it's just this lovely. I felt comfortable to do that. So yeah, and so these songs, these actually are on the EP that I'm going to be releasing soon, as well as another song. So yeah, so this is I'm really happy with these songs, but I'm really happy, particularly personally, on this song. And what's great about that, and what we were just talking about, is that although I obviously want people to enjoy it and like it, if not love it, I really love this song. And it's like, well, if no one ever listens to this song, do you know what? It's okay, because I actually love this song. And so it means so much to me. And that's the other thing, is that when you're writing songs, is don't forget how much it means to you. And don't let whether someone likes it or not, whether they think it's good or not, don't let, honestly, that affect what it means to you, because that you've got to protect that, because that's a very special thing. You know, it's very personal.
Beautiful.
Yeah.
Beautiful.
So this is Our Finest Hour.
Lovely.
When it's all died down, out of sight and out of mind, yeah, then maybe, baby, we could settle down. Until that day, our finest hour. But baby, I still haven't found what I am looking for. Stone cold on a bright summer's day. Someone please tell me how it could be this way. Tomorrow comes just like it did today. Someone please tell me it won't always be this way. Let it down. Is this our finest hour? Let it down. Is this finest hour? Let it down. Is our finest hour? So all died down, out of sight and out of mind. Yeah, then maybe, baby, we can settle down until that day, our finest hour. Oh baby, I still haven't found what I am looking for. Is this our finest hour? What is our finest hour? Until our finest hour.
Beautiful. Wow, fantastic. Yeah, that was our finest hour. The thing that I wrote down from that one there was thought-provoking. I thought that was a very thought-provoking performance. Just made you kind of think about, and the line there as well, tomorrow comes as it did today. And it's just like, I feel like that's just very, very relevant, and a great thing we can all take away. Like, whatever's happening today, tomorrow's going to come as it did today. You know, is this our finest hour? Can we work towards something else? And I just felt like it really put an emphasis on the fact that life's a journey, and it's not all just going to come at once.
You know, just listening to it back there, it's like, you know, I still haven't found what I'm looking for. And
Yeah.
I think, you know, which is a very famous U2 song, but it's also more what's the word, more prevalent really, is that so many of us think that, or we may not articulate it like that, but it's deep down in us are going, I still haven't found something, not quite, I'm still looking for something, or we may not even realize we're doing that. And I think this was the first time I was able to put it into words in such a way that you said about the journey. I'm still looking. And this can't be our finest hour, can it? Really? I hope not. Please don't be this halfway. So it's like, it's just this, but being honest, like, you know, I'm just saying to my wife Anna, and not that she's saying we've got to settle down now. She's not saying that. It's more, I can't settle yet because we haven't found what we're looking for yet. I know we haven't, and so, and that can be related on all sorts of different levels, you know. But I think a simple one would be our dreams. You know, there's things that we still want to. We're still building. We're still very much in the building phase of life, and just wanting to see. And it's not that it's a destination. I think I'm coming to realize maybe there's crowning moments. So where we never have a destination. In one sense, I don't see it as a destination, because then we're like, all right, I'm done. What do I do now? Like, you know, but it's like there's a crowning moment on the journey of going, oh yes, I reached the top of that mountain peak, or I reached the end of that road. But we don't just stop there, do we? So it's like this crowning moment. Yes, we enjoy that. We celebrate that. We're right. Here we go. Let's carry on. Let's go next. Where next? So it's this thing of maybe our finest hours are those crowning moments, you know, and so yeah. But it was a very important song for me to write. That I needed. I couldn't articulate it where, other than if I got really angsty, like start throwing my, you know, breaking my guitar or something. It's like how do I articulate this in such a way where I still haven't found what I'm looking for. I'm not going to be bitter about it. I'm not going to be resentful, but I want to be honest. you know, and I think I'm very happy with how I have expressed that. Yeah,
it's a beautiful song. It's a beautiful song, and for anybody just listening on the audio only version of this podcast, please do head over to the YouTube channel and watch the video performance, because it's one thing listening to it, but I feel like it's a whole other experience seeing you sat at the piano performing that song. So so please do check that one out. This has been an absolute pleasure today, I have to say. It really has been.
Thank you, Shay. It has for me. Thank you.
For those people that listen and tune into these podcasts, I can't express myself as a musician, as just a person, how much of a privilege it is to be able to sit here and talk to people like yourself and just talk about your life's journey in music and in general, and how it's just shaped who you are and what you put out in the world. Because I feel like that is what, as an artist, that's what you do. So many things in life. Our job role, and whatever we do, we're putting something out in the world. I feel that's just a beautiful thing to do. And music for me is I love it. I love music. I'm just so passionate about it, as are you. So yeah, thank you so much for that. We're gonna, like I say, we've got a tradition on the podcast where the previous guest asks the guest that's on a question. So this is your question. And this has come from Fugitive Orchestra, and normally, like I say, it is the previous guest, but you're actually going to be on before Fugitive Orchestra, because his podcast is taking some serious editing.
Okay.
But anyway, this is his question to you, and he's said, if you could pick any one gig in history to attend, what would it be?
To attend?
Yes.
Wow. As to play or to
attend?
watch?
So maybe you could pick a certain gig from a certain artist at a certain time. If you could be there and experience it, maybe you've previously already experienced it, but if you could go back and or choose one, what would it be and why?
See, I think I've already experienced it, but I think it's because it's very personal. You know, so I could, even just thinking about it now, it's like just blazing away. So I was watching a band called the Doves, well, not the Doves, but they're called Doves, and oh my goodness, right? So they had this. It was this stage. It was in the University of Cardiff, and they've changed. I think they've all kind of torn it down now and built it back up again. So the stage was really, really, really wide, like really wide. And there's three in the Doves, there's three members in the Doves plus one. There's some sessions with them, right? So you've got these guys, right, and they kind of play very like soundtracky music. Kind of, they sing. There's there's a lot it's got vocals, but you can be in a film with that kind of sound. But they've got this. Nearly as wide as the stage is, they've got a screen that's as wide, and they have just got all this imagery being thrown up, right? So instead of anyone taking center stage, which I have no problem with, someone with a mic in the middle of the stage, they are, and there's two of them will sing. They'll take turns to sing at times, depending on the song, are on either side of the stage, towards the sides. And so the center of the center stage is taken up by the cinematic landscapes. Oh my goodness! To be honest, it's a lot more common to see that thing nowadays. But like, I was mesmerized. I just think I just must have stood there, not doing anything, and my eyes wide open, and I'm like, I couldn't believe what I was experiencing. I was experiencing this visual, I was experiencing this live sound, I was experiencing the band not taking center stage, but being obviously so pivotal to it all. And I've never taken drugs, like I've never wanted to, but I'm sure that was the closest thing it must be to feeling, because I was so high. I think people must have thought I was stoned or whatever, I don't know. But I just walked out of there just like, my eyebrows must have, I've got very expressive eyebrows, so like I must have been like, I don't know, half at my forehead, and my eyes wide open, just stunned. It just blew me away. I can't. Yeah, it just blew me away. And that really, for me, began a journey of, I don't know what it did. It was just such a turning point in my songwriting, in my compositional work. It's just like, man, yeah. So that's the one. I will go back there tomorrow to do that.
Amazing.
To go and be at that very gig. That totally. So yeah. Sorry, go on.
So they obviously had that kind of the musical element, but also the visual element, and just brought the both together so beautifully. Yeah.
And it was thought through. It wasn't just like a throw up of images. It was just thought through, and it just, I don't know. It was black and white imagery, and that which can be so powerful at times. It's just like, yeah. You can hear it. I'm just like, this was a long time ago. I'm like, this is like, I just go back there again.
Amazing. Well, we're gonna have to try and fish out a link on YouTube to that performance. I don't know if it even exists, but we'll see if we can get.
I don't know. It exists in my head. If you can get in my head, then you're going to be fine.
We'll see if we can get any footage of that, and if so, we'll pop a link in the description. But yeah, that sounds amazing. So just to finish up, a lot of people watching this and listening to this, as well as myself, are keen to know when you're next performing, where you're next performing, and after hearing so much about you today, where can we see you? Where can we find you?
Yeah, so mynorthernsky.net is my website. I've been busy at work with just creating the platforms. I've got a store now, which is very exciting, an own separate store, and I've just been working on various platforms in that sense, so that's very exciting for me. In terms of live, I'm playing in crumbs. I think it's April or May. It's in the Are You Listening Festival, which is become quite a popular festival in Reading, where we're currently living. So that's really good. That's good. But I'm hoping to get more. Obviously, I always find the new year is a kind of a slow start, but I purposely do that. But I think if you want to hear me, if you want to hear my stuff, mynorthernsky.net is the best way. And even to sign up, you'll get free downloads and all that kind of stuff. But I will let people know when I'm gigging and that kind of thing. I also do house gigs, so hopefully, so that's a really cool. So if anyone, I'm saying all of this, forgive the self-promotion, but if you wanted and were interested in putting on house gigs and stuff, then I would love to come. So again, go mynorthernsky.net for that. And what I love about that, the idea behind that is not just me playing, it's like the friends of the person in the house, they can play too. Mm-hmm. And then you can even jam, or we can. It just becomes you can do so. There's things you can do that you couldn't do and you wouldn't do at a music venue,
Yeah.
And just the intimacy of that and stuff. So it's a different experience. So again, house gigs, or I'm playing live in April or May. I can't remember when. And then I've got EPs in pre-release at the moment. So there's pre-order and pre-release, and 3 of the songs you've heard today. Will be on that. And I've got a back catalogue that I'm going to be looking to release sometime. So I've purposely been building everything up and creating the whole foundations and platforms to be able to go, I guess, to be a step ahead of myself, really. Mm-hmm. So it's an exciting time. But to start the year with the podcast with you it's such a blessing. And thank you so much for having me. But not just me, having other independent musicians to be able to share their story, share their lives, and have a platform. And also in that, be a platform then to be able to inspire people who are listening in whatever way, whether they're musicians or not, just inspiring them to go and do their thing. I just think, hat off to you, and I thank you for that. It's amazing.
I appreciate it. Thank you. It's like I say, it's a privilege and an honor for me to be able to have these podcasts with amazing artists and just people such as yourself. So it really is amazing. So we're gonna end the podcast with one more song from yourself, and that's gonna play us out to the end of the podcast. So before, because of course we're not gonna have a chance to talk about after hearing this song, tell us anything we need to know about this song, and then we're gonna hear this one to play us out.
Yeah, so I wrote this song during, well, within the last 2 years, you know, basically with everything that's going on around the world. And it's just being honest, I just got my guitar out on this one, and it's just trying to, I think what's happened in so many ways is there's been such a loss of compass. It's like, which way do I go? Where do we go? What? And that whole, and just being honest with that, and just being like, I naturally lament in my music. I'm an upbeat person, but when it comes to music, I can lament, and this really is, I guess, it's a lament. But it's also, again, it's giving permission just to be honest with ourselves, and just to be honest with questioning things. And it's like journaling or just having a conversation with someone, just where you can just offload. And for me, this was that in a very simple way, but in a way that I just wanted to saturate it with imagery, in this lyrically, to just create that picture and that painting, and just that looking, you know, being in the middle of the ocean. Where are we? Just looking for the edge of where the ocean meets the land. It's that's one of the lyrics. It's like, just I don't need to go on the land right now necessarily, but just show me where the ocean meets the land, so I can have an option or a choice or something where I can get off, or seek refuge in that way. So yeah, this will be on the EP as well.
Perfect. So guys, I don't always do this at the end of the podcast, but thank you so much to you guys that have listened and tuned into this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed this nearly as much as me. I've absolutely loved it. My Northern Sky, amazing. Please go check his stuff out. In May, he's going to be performing at the Are You Listening Festival, and all of that information and more can be found at mynorthernsky.net. I mean, home gigs. Who doesn't want to have this guy come to their home and do a gig? I mean, seriously, go on to mynorthernsky.net, get involved. If you love the song today, which I did, check out the EP, which is pre-release, and all of that can be found on mynorthernsky.net as well. We're going to finish up this podcast. It's been amazing. Thank you so much to you. This is Ocean.
Thanks so much, Luke. Thank you.
Heavy, heavy, gentle rain. For a moment, the blackbird song just hides the pain. Where's my east, my south, my west? Where's the edge of where this ocean meets the land? Stop the clocks, yeah, can you hold those tides? Can you hold up the sun, yeah, just above our skies? Where's my east, my south, my west? There's the edge of where this ocean meets